Biblical Hebrew Roots to Anchor Your Bible Comprehension. Hebrew word roots are the base on which the Bible is written. They are impossible to fully translate. How can they be fully understood? Biblical Hebrew roots and Hebrew word stories are the final two keys of our series to master Biblical Hebrew. Both of these principles are basic, especially the latter, yet most Bible readers are not aware of them. Even religious, as differentiated from intellectual, Bible scholars are unaware of the most important seventh key. Origin of the Universe, chapter 3, verse 2-3. I suggest you also read the first two parts of this series here. Fullness of Biblical Hebrew. Words are precious jewels. Number 6. Biblical Hebrew word construction is based on roots. Each Biblical Hebrew word has a base, a common denominator on which it's built. Here's an English example of a family of words with a common thread. Ocular, trochlear, monocle, monocular, binoculars, oculars, oculist. You might not know the meaning of all these words, but you can spot the common denominator, oculus, pertaining to the eye. In English, we practically never refer to the common root of words, but in Biblical Hebrew and in modern Hebrew, we do. Roots are a fundamental key to understanding the meanings and relationships. The Hebrew Bible actually only contains about 8,600 different words, repeated over and over to compose the text. These 8,600 words are built on about 2,000 roots or fundamental building blocks like oculus, from which other words are constructed. Understanding this helps us grasp the relationships between words, some even most of which are not evident as at first sight. The Hebrew Bible only contains about 8,600 different words, constructed on a mere 2,000 roots. We've already seen examples of this with Rosh, head, beginning, and Noah, quiet, rest, as well as with Lechem, eat, war. Every word in Biblical Hebrew is either a root or the derivative of a root. It is impossible to see this in your native language, where totally different, unrelated, translated words like the three examples above, head, beginning, quiet, rest, and eat, war, cannot render full meaning when taken separately. Another factor to do with the 2,000 roots is that some of the roots are actually interrelated, further enhancing the relationships and meanings. I can't get into it here, but for those who know a little Hebrew, here's the transliteration of three words: Yashav, Shivet, Shuv. Their basic meanings include sit, Sabbath, and return. I say basic meanings because, as we saw with Noah, there are multiple native language translations for each of these three roots. When you read any of these three words in your native language, there's absolutely no way of even knowing they have a common root, let alone realizing there's an indelible relationship between those three concepts. I'll even go so far as to say that for most scholars who read and study Biblical Hebrew, this relationship is unknown. For those not aware of this, the common denominator of Yeshev, Shivet, and Shuv consists of the two letters Shin and Bet, pronounced here as a vowel. Needless to say, it is impossible to see these roots and hence these intricate and reveal relationships in any translation. I repeat, the native language translation of these words are correct, but they reveal a very, very limited amount of information. It is impossible to have complete understanding. If we reread the above points, you will now realize that each biblical Hebrew word, Elohim, Rosh, and Noah, is either a root, Rosh is the only one here, or a derivative of a root. The point being, you're beginning to see fundamental concepts in biblical Hebrew that open up more complete understanding of this bestseller, the Bible. Whether you believe the Bible or not, it's full of words that will open up this literary marvel as never before. I'll show you how to easily and quickly identify biblical Hebrew word roots and find all the derivatives and their meanings. We'll be discussing this in the Hebrew course, and soon you'll be able to get a much more complete understanding of 4 biblical Hebrew word meanings. Number 7, biblical Hebrew words tell stories. This takes us full circle back to point 1. The King James translators and other translators for all other translated versions, all language, ended up using multiple words in English to translate one biblical Hebrew word. The result being that sometimes we end up with a jumble of foreign language words that don't seem to make sense. Yet, somewhere, somehow, there's a relationship between them. I call that association of words a story. Yes, practically each word, and especially the roots, has a tale to tell. It is these accounts that unlock Bible meaning. There's an exciting story behind Shevet, Noah, Rosh, Lechem, and hundreds of other words and roots. Understand that we're not talking about counting letters or hidden code or deciphering symbols or anything of that nature. While I'm on the subject, when I refer to Hebrew roots, I am in no way referring to the Hebrew roots movement, which proposed a return to first century Hebrew roots Christianity. What I'm talking about here has nothing to do with these organizations and concepts with which I am not associated in any way, shape, or form. We're talking about biblical Hebrew vocabulary and the dictionary meaning of words, just like in your native language. If you don't understand a word, you take a dictionary and look it up. That's exactly what we are doing, looking at the meaning, the full meaning of biblical Hebrew roots and words. It's this full meaning that is the word story. One biblical Hebrew word has 50 translations. They tell a story you've never heard it yet. I will say bluntly, you've never heard these stories before. Without these word stories, it is impossible to grasp the full meaning of what the author of what we call the Old Testament has in mind. I'll conclude this section by bringing us back to another key principle. As mentioned in point 6, there's a relationship between the 3 roots, Yashav, Shevat, and Shub. They are interconnected, each telling its own story and each being a part of a larger story. This is what I call coherent and completeness. Well, coherent completeness goes much further than that. The 2,000 roots are interconnected not grammatically but figuratively. The 8,600 biblical Hebrew words are interconnected. In the end, I believe they all tell one story. Each biblical Hebrew word is a puzzle piece. An inventory and audit of the universe, I turned over all the pieces that constitute our physical and non-physical universe. Turn them right side up, giving you an overview of what this universe is all about and what state it's in right now. In the origin of the universe, we're going to turn the biblical Hebrew words of Genesis over one by one. We're going to see their relationship with each other as well as the relationship with the universe we live in. We're going to turn biblical Hebrew words right side up and make coherent completeness out of all this information. The combined and interrelated stories of the biblical Hebrew roots will tell us the story of our universe. They will tell us the origin of the universe. Note, as I write these words, Dan Brown has just released his 5th novel, Origin. I haven't read it yet and will do, but it revolves around a scientist who finds a link that proves the scientific creation or origin of our universe and Earth. Not sure yet whether he or the commentators are saying that once and for all it can do away with religion. Well, in discussing theology, I've already commented on religion and what its role and influence has been on society. However, behind eliminating religion is doing away with God with a capital G. The explanation will help you not cajole, convince, brainwash, or persuade. It's up to you to determine what you think. Understand the Bible side. The biblical Hebrew point of view. The explanation by exploring biblical Hebrew will give you some serious concepts to consider. That's the goal. You decide what the origin of the universe really is. Bonus. 1. Active, passive verbs. Here's a short example to illustrate this point. In English, we could say the teacher taught a course to the students or learners. Think about what's happening here. Here, there's a subject being taught, let's say math. One person is giving the math and the others are receiving the math. The first, the teacher, is the active element. The others, the learners, are the passive elements. In English, we use two separate words, teach, learn. In Hebrew, we can use the same root with interspersed modifications like vowels to express this, melamad and talmud, the root being the lamed, mem, and dalet, LMD. One biblical Hebrew root expresses both the active and the passive. Once again, translations are a great introduction to begin to understand the Bible, but it is impossible to see the word roots and hence the various concrete and abstract, literal and figurative meanings as well as the word relationships and hence their stories. Translations are limited in their scope. This is something that Bible readers are not aware of and is one point that leads to incomplete comprehension. And the core 7 keys to master biblical Hebrew, a study method to unlock Bible meaning. I'll expand each one of these keys that I've evoked in the last 3 blog posts by using real biblical Hebrew word examples. There will be biblical Hebrew word mysteries that you'll solve. I'll help you using the free accessible online Bible tools. But the goal of this course is for you to acquire a study method so you can unlock Bible meaning yourself. All I want to do is help you study your Bible better. Here's the challenge. Here's the first mystery you'll crack. In fact, it's the first conundrum that I ran across in Bible Hebrew some 30 years ago that helped me develop the master course to unlock Bible meaning applying biblical Hebrew. Remember that we are not focusing on biblical Hebrew per se. Biblical Hebrew is only a means to understand what the Bible is telling us. In the book of Genesis, the Bible states that Adam and Eve were naked. In the following verse, it states that the serpent was subtle. Old King James English spelling where we put subtle, Genesis 2 verse 29 and Genesis 3 verse 1. Well, the mystery is that biblical Hebrew, both these words are practically identical. I'd even say identical, and I'll explain why during the course, and definitely come from an identical root, Aram. You can use the Interlinear Bible at www.unlockbiblemeaning.com to verify this. The question is, what's the full story being told by this word and its use in the context of Genesis, immediately after the creation story? Again, I repeat, whether you believe the creation story or not, it doesn't change the way this story was recorded, however long time ago it was. When you solve this mystery, which we'll do during the first lessons of the course, you'll have an answer to one of the most asked questions about today's society worldwide. I guarantee you'll be amazed, but even more important, the answer is the Bible study method you will begin to incorporate for your own ongoing studies. This blog post is an excerpt from chapter 3, verses 2-3 of The Origin of the Universe.